Ooh, yeah. Here we go. Mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts. UFC Vegas 55 preview show starts now!
It sure does. I never know how to sort of come out of those intros because there's just so much energy, so much hype for UFC Vegas 55. A pivotal bantamweight matchup is on the top of the card. Holly Holm looks to perhaps get herself into yet another UFC title fight. Standing in her way is a woman looking for her first opportunity at a UFC title, Ketlen Vieira. That will close the show at a pretty decent hour, if we're being honest. I am Mike Heck. Thank you for joining us for the UFC Vegas 55 preview show. I am Mike Heck. We got AK Lee, the Prince of Positivity, in the house. Internet fixed. He's ready to go. And the king of hot takes, Mr. No Gray Area himself, Jed Meshew, who just has so many more takes, I'm sure. He's just,
I got a take for you right now, Mike. I got a take for you. AK's internet mysteriously vanished specifically during the hours of the UFC weigh-in. So instead I had to do the UFC weigh-in. Conveniently timed is all I'm saying. Convenient outage. Oh, it's actually back. My internet wasn't broken at all. My bad. Just saying.
I gave you the privilege of getting to cover. I never miss a weigh-in. I love weigh-ins. I experienced the worst FOMO I've ever experienced in my life. I was messaging Jed constantly. Oh, what happened? Oh, did anyone come in? I'm like, just wait. I was like, I'll have my internet fixed. 20 minutes tops. I swear I'll be back. I ran out, got a new modem. It turned out I talked to two different IT guys. The first one, God bless him, did his best to help me. But the second guy just told me, oh, it's an outage in your area. And I'm like, what the? Why did I go through all that stuff the first time? And I missed weigh-ins. 2 sweet hours of weigh-ins. Holly Holm, Ketlen Vieira.
It's like 90 minutes.
Michel Pereira, Parker Porter. I missed it.
But listen, Jed comes through, wrote a terrific article, went through and made it happen. So let's talk, AK. I want to start with you because even though you missed weigh-ins, I'm sure you have some sort of level of excitement for this card. We have 11 fights. We have a main event with some stakes. We have a co-main event. I think this is a co-main event. Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Michel Pereira. This is not a second to last fight. Yeah, we have a 4 p.m. prelim and we have a 7 p.m. main card. So what's the gymnastic scale here? All things considered, time of event, number of fights, main event with some stakes, co-main event that's actually a co-main event.
I mean, I can't go that high because I've been pretty generous. I think last guy said what, like 7.5? I was like, so can I really put it that much higher than the Blachowicz Rakic card? Because like I kind of thought that card looked good. I think this card on paper, even I know we do want to take into account the time. Yeah, the time is convenient. We want to take into account that Michel Pereira is fighting, and oddly, that this fight has, you know, much like last week's main event, does have kind of direct title implications. As much as people don't want to hear that, I think I have to stay in the same range. Just looking at the card as a whole, I do like a lot of these matchups, but more from like evenly matched fighters thing than I necessarily expect these to turn to bangers. I would give it a higher rate. I'll say this. I'll go 7.5 again ish. I would give it a higher rating if Parker Porter and Jelton Almeida should be on the main card. We'll talk about that more later, I'm sure. But that is a
prelim main event, baby.
It's not even.
Yes, it is.
It is not.
It is on Wiki.
It is not on
Joseph Holmes. Yep. Amidovsky is the
Joseph Holmes. Alan Amidovsky.
That's very stupid.
I don't use this word. Better. I don't use this word lightly. This is a tragedy. This fight is not being featured. Ridiculous.
I agree. Parker Porter, Jelton Almeida, something fun and probably hilarious might happen in that fight one way or the other. But what's your excitement level, Jed? I know you and we look at these fight night cards. They can be fun, but the time of day actually means a lot to me with these cards, and the number of fights certainly means a lot to me. And I feel like we're hitting the sweet spot all the way around here. Plus we have stakes in the main event. We have a co-main event, and there are some fun little nibbles in there for some fun competitive fights.
this is a perfect like throwaway fight night card, right? Saying throwaway makes it sound disrespectful, but like it is what it is. The UFC has to get to 42 events a year to cash that big fat check from ESPN. So not every event is going to be a banger. Not every event's going to be a pay-per-view. And a lot of the fight night cards are just space fillers. And that's okay. This is like the idyllic view of how to do this as far as I'm concerned. 11 fights, that is a tight number. 10 is better, but 11 is fine. Firing at 4 and 7, we're going to be done with this thing by 10, so we don't have to stay up until 2 a.m. to watch Alexander Rakic break his own knee and just leave us very unsatisfied and with a lack of sleep on a Saturday night. And yeah, like you said, I think I'm against AK here. I think this card is much better on paper than last week's. I thought last week's card had some maybe a little bit better names in spots, but I thought looking at that on paper, there are a lot of opportunities for bad, like not great or not fun, not exciting fights, even if they're competitive or well matched. Whereas this one, I think we're going to get some good fights, some solid fights. I think we're going to get a lot more finishes on this card. A lot of fights that line up to have more exciting outcomes. And, we do get stuff like Paca Porta and Jailton Almeida, which this probably isn't true, but just off the top of my head, this is a first ballot body beautiful all-stars thing. The difference in the two physiques of these gentlemen, I'm not sure we've seen this broad a difference in quite some time. So that's always exciting, and I'm here for it. So yeah, I think this is great. I'd give this a rock solid 82. And if it shows out, we could be looking at a high B+ card here.
I like the 82 number. I think that makes perfect sense. And what's funny about Paca Porta and Jailton Almeida is one guy is chiseled out of stone, the other not so chiseled out of stone, but the guy not so chiseled out of stone might actually have a better gas tank than the guy chiseled out of stone. So if that fight gets out of the first round, it should be really fun. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit later on. But AK, let's talk about this main event. Holly Holm, she has won 2 in a row. She beat Raquel Pennington, not a fight that we're going to go back and watch anytime soon. Then she bounces back against Irene Aldana in October of 2020, and she looked fantastic. That was one of the best performances start to finish of her entire career. Beats Irene Aldana, and she's been out ever since then. This is her first fight since October 2020. I believe this is the longest actual layoff of her career, and she takes on Ketlen Vieira, who's coming off the big win over Miesha Tate. And the UFC is sort of presenting her as this sort of legend killer, this vet dominator on her way to a title shot. So you have to believe, because every time Holly Holm fights, this is in the discussion. So if Holly Holm wins, you have to believe she's probably knocking on the door of a title shot. If Juliana Pena beats Amanda Nunes a second time, there's a very good chance Holly Holm gets that shot. Does Ketlen Vieira have that same fate, so to speak? If she goes out there and beats Holly Holm and pulls off this upset, is she fighting for the belt next, or does she still have to get another win or two?
Yeah, and Phenomena has the benefit of she would also be a fresh matchup for Nunes if Nunes should regain the title. I think in all likelihood, if Nunes regained it, they'll probably just want to try and do an immediate trilogy. Just do, just bang, 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 3 Nunes Pena fights in a row. Just do it. So that's probably not great for Vieira or Holm, but I think Vieira has a little bit of the edge just because she hasn't already lost to Nunes. Nunes' fight with Holm, it was at 140. That was a featherweight title fight, I believe, right? So I understand it, like, they could sell it as, oh, it's different if 135, but that's something you could always kind of revisit down the road, or not at all. It's just not a rematch. I feel like people want to see at 145 or at 135. So if Nunes wins, that's good for Vieira, and if Vieira beats Holly Holm, you can probably assume she'll still be one away, because then they'll do the Nunes Pena rematch. So in a way, Holm is closer, especially if Pena wins. Then you can just write in Holm as the next challenger. And the scary thing is, as much as we kind of roll our eyes sometimes, or at least fans do, at like, oh my gosh, Holly Holm getting another title shot, this time it would be like more deserved than ever, because it's true. In the past, she has been like, Holly Holm loses a title opportunity, beats one person, a top 5 person in her division usually, and then gets another title shot, loses again, fights another person, gets a title shot. This time, she's had to fight her way up the hard way. Raquel Pennington, Irene Aldana, both in the top 10. and then Ketlen Vieira would be another top 10. So you knock off 3 top 10
Not
people
not just
in
the
any other
top 10,
division.
AK. That's numbers 3, 4, and whatever Vieira is. I think 6 in the
Sure.
UFC's rankings.
Sure. That happens in any other division. People would be like, "Oh, you have to give this person a title shot." Holly Holm, I tell you, I don't think she could knock Ketlen Vieira out tonight, and I don't think people would be like, "Oh, I need to see Holly compete for another title." It's kind of weird like that. And also, let's be honest, the top 10 at bantamweight does not mean the same thing as top 10 at lightweight, top 10 at featherweight, top 10 at bantamweight, et cetera, et cetera. So it is just a number. It doesn't mean the same thing. But it is kind of funny that if she did get a title shot, if she did get a big win, a title shot, this would be the most justified one in a while.
Jed, Ketlen Vieira, like we said, she's coming off this win over Miesha Tate. And to me, it was one of those fights where, I mean, I thought it was a blowout. It wasn't like the most fun fight in the world to watch, but I thought Vieira won at least 4 rounds, if not all 5 rounds in that fight. She looked good. Miesha's obviously dropping down to 125, but she's getting this opportunity to fight a Holly Holm. And the betting lines are interesting here. You are our resident gambling enthusiast, Jed Meshew. You do have the podcast No Bets Barred. Right now, Holly Holm is a pretty sizable favorite. Minus 250. The comeback on Ketlen Vieira is plus 200. Does that plus 200 stand out to you, Jed? Is that something you're taking a look at? Is there something about the stylistic sort of piece to this puzzle that actually makes Ketlen Vieira a pretty live dog here?
I'm betting her. It's a bet that I kind of anticipate losing, but I still just think that it's the right bet on this fight because I have a lot of questions about Holly Holm. Like, frankly, I think stylistically, Holly Holm is Holly Holm, and this probably plays pretty well into what she wants to do. Ketlen Vieira is not like a tremendous takedown artist, which means this will be contested on the feet. Holly Holm is going to be able to set her range and really just soak up a lot of minutes in the clinch, which is a thing that she's decided she wants to do a lot, which I guess is effective, but man, it's hard to watch. But, you know, there are a couple of things for Vieira here. But for me, I think a lot of people, when they fight Holly Holm, they just back up when she does those kind of blitzing runs that she takes. Vieira is content to sit down and throw counters, and I think that's a much more effective way to try and fight Holly Holm than to just run away when she does offense and not be able to get past her footwork on your own offensive turns. But I don't know. I don't feel like you should be a minus 250 favorite if you're 40 years old, coming off the longest layoff in your career, you know, over 18 months out of the cage, and you were off that long because you had a knee injury and the hydronephrosis, which I still don't understand, but it sounds bad. So like, it's probably not a good thing to have had. And certainly for a 40-year-old person to still be competing at the very upper echelons of elite combat sports, anytime the word nephrosis gets involved, I'm wary. So we add in all those factors, and this also just feels like kind of like the story the UFC is pitching. I won't be shocked if Holly Holm comes in and wins this. I also won't be at all shocked if this is somehow the port where Ketlen Vieira at 30 years old is ascending in this division, and now she's knocked off 2 former champions in a row. Let's get her into a title fight, because that's sort of how narratives work in this sport. Like, we've seen this story time and again. So I think she's a very live dog.
Is it the price tag that kind of makes you feel that
Yeah,
way? Because I feel like
tag.
this could be lined a little bit. Yeah, it could be lined a little bit closer than this. So I feel like you're getting a lot of value with Vieira at plus 200.
Yeah, like I would still have Holly Holm as the favorite, but I would have her at like a minus 160, maybe minus 180 if you're feeling that way, just because of the red flags and the question marks. I do think this fight favors her, and I won't at all be surprised if Holly Holm wins, but that price is just way bigger than I think it should be.
Now, Jed has questions about Holly Holm, AK. The layoff, certainly, even though she's been a combat athlete for a long time. Yes, she is not your typical 40-year-old. She is in tremendous condition. She hasn't been sitting on the couch for 18 months, but father time and sometimes mother time, they're always undefeated. Time beats you every single time. How much does this layoff concern you in terms of breaking this fight down? Does this favor Vieira in your eyes because of the length of time that she hasn't competed? Or do you feel like it's more of a Dominic Cruz mentality? No such thing as ring rust. Holly Holm's a veteran. She'll fight right through this layoff.
Yes, I do think that she can fight through it, but also Father Time is undefeated, and I think while mentally, I think she might be in a great place. Physically, she's probably as good as she can be, like you said, at age 40, given how much wear and tear she has from MMA, from pro boxing, and I just don't know if all her tools can be brought to bear anymore at the level that they were when she was in her prime. Again, anyone who has seen Holly fight and sees her at the weigh-ins and sees her, I don't know what, keeps up with her on Instagram. She looks incredible. You know, she's in great shape. She's in top performance. But 40 is 40. 40 is 40, and that's 10 years older than her opponent. That's a big difference. So I'm not saying it's gonna be an easy fight for Ketlen Vieira at all. But I do wonder if we are past the point where Holly's style can sort of be effective. Again, she looked great in her last fight, no question. Was that maybe a positive stylistic matchup for her? I would say so. I think Vieira is going to be a little bit trickier. Even on the feet, I think Vieira brings something different. So I don't know if we're giving our official picks now, but I'm sort of hinting at where I'm going. I do think age is a huge factor. Happy to be proven wrong. Listen, we're in an age where Glover Teixeira is the UFC light heavyweight champion. So happy to be proven wrong, but would not surprise me if the story we are talking about on Sunday and the rest of the week is something to the effect of Holly Holm's prime has passed on, and how many fights does she have left?
All right. Well, I mean, listen, you put it out there, so let's just get to the picks here. Are you going with the underdog here, AK?
I'm going with the underdog. I'll say by decision, convincing decision too, like competitive fight, but one that by the end we would be like, yes, Ketlen Vieira won this fight. She mixed the martial arts, she won the fight, and she is in line to get a title shot if certain dominoes fall a certain way over the next few months.
Jed, you see value in Ketlen Vieira from a betting perspective, but all things even in our official MMA fighting team picks here, are you picking Vieira to win there as well, or is this a Holly Holm win for you based on even money, all that stuff?
I'm going to pick Ketlen Vieira. I think that's wrong. I think I'm supposed to pick Holly Holm. I think Holly Holm is the one who's supposed to win this fight, but I don't know. I put money on her. It just sort of feels like the right thing to do. And hell, I have been just getting worked for the last 3 weeks, picking against old people, being like, Father Time is going to, Yoel Romero's 50. Surely he's going to lose. And Francisco Massaranduba is 800 years old. Surely he's going to lose. And they keep not losing. So one of them's got to hit, right? At some point, Father Time has to rear his head. So might as well be this one. Give me Ketlen Vieira by decision. Probably not what AK was saying, though. I feel like it's going to be a really close fight.
So I'm gonna go with the favorite here. I'm gonna go with the old Chakaroo, but I have really no evidence to back this up. But when I just think about this fight, the one constant that pops into my brain is that Holly Holm is gonna kick Ketlen Vieira in the face at some point in this fight and knock her out. It could be. I don't think it's gonna be early. I think maybe third round, maybe towards the end. But I feel like Vieira is susceptible to getting kicked in the face, like getting a really high sneaky head kick from Holly Holm. And I kind of see that coming here. So my official pick will be Holly Holm, third round TKO. I think she gets a finish and then probably gets a title shot. Maybe I'm reaching, but I don't know. I feel like there's openings there for that head kick to land, especially the further this fight goes. But we'll see. Hopefully I'm right, and we have a lot to talk about at the end. Go ahead, AK.
Well, Mike, there is a poll. I threw a poll, and if that scenario should unfold, if we get a Holly Holm head kick KO, or I phrased it, impressive win, should Holly Holm get another title shot? 75% yes so far. 75% yes. So I don't know.
Because there's no one else to give it to.
It's not a great.
There's literally no one else to give it to other than Valentina Shochenko. Like Shevchenko is the only person who you could. The two women immediately beneath Holly Holm in the rankings, she recently beat. You cannot jump her.
It is not a strong division. It is the worst division every month in the MMA fighting rankings roundup article we do every month. The worst division to write about.
They also don't have fights.
There's nothing happening. They don't know. There's no activity.
Every other division has like hundreds of fights a year. Women's bantamweight gets like 40 at most. Like
I think that's high. I think that's high. Like I'll have to look it up, but that sounds like a lot. That sounds like more.
when I did the count 2 years ago, I think they had like 32, which
That
was
sounds yeah.
the lowest by like 40 fights or something for any
Because
division other than women's featherweight, which is
I mean,
not
think
real
about
division.
think about this. They only have they have 40 something events a year, and they don't have a women's bantamweight fight on every card. So it has to be less than 40, unless there's some cards that have multiple women's bantamweight
Yeah, I
fights.
mean,
But
you get
that's even
some
more
of it
rare.
there, but like,
So
yeah, it was some absurdly low number.
Well, we at least will have one tomorrow, so that's good. Let's go to the co-main event, and we know this is going to be fun. We got Santiago Ponzinibbio taking on Michel Pereira. AK, I know how excited you are to see Michel Pereira back in there. We're the opponent in Santiago Ponzinibbio. This one has fireworks written all over it. I feel like they can't let us down here, even though I'm putting this out to the ether. Maybe I'm jinxing it. I just feel like I can't jinx this fight. I feel like the fight's going to be fun, and no matter how it goes.
Take it back. Take it back.
AK, describe this fight in one word, and then wax poetically on how you feel about it.
Oh, you're not going to like it because I think this fight is important. Not a sexy word.
Ooh.
No, not a sexy word. But I think it's important. I also don't agree that this is a guaranteed banger. I actually do not agree with that. I think both guys are fairly technical, especially the kinder, gentler Demolidor. And Andre Fialho, God bless him, brought the beast out of him, because that's what Andre Fialho does now. I don't think that guy is now one of the most exciting, I think 10 most exciting guys in the UFC across all divisions, because if you're not ready to stand and like fire with him, he's gonna just smoke you, which he's done to a couple of guys already, or he's gonna bring you into this firefight, which he did with Michel Pereira, and brought out the best in him. So I don't know, but I don't know if we see that Pereira against Santiago Ponzinibbio, and I don't know if Ponzinibbio, if that's what he would want to do against a guy who again can be a little bit unpredictable. So I actually think it'll be a good fight, but more, pretty technical, which I don't think is a bad thing. But I don't know if it's going to be necessarily the surefire like fight of the night winner. I want to see a comment. T-Ball Paul asking, is the co-main event? You mentioned this beginning of the preview, Mike, that yes, this is a co-main event. T-Ball Paul is asking, is it a co-main event or the second to last fight of the night? There it is on the screen for the viewers. Or is it a bona fide zero implication co-main with a top knot versus an ex top knot? It is all those things, but it is a co-main event. I kind of said
zero implication.
It's true. You're right. I mean, I think more long term. I don't think I think both guys, no matter what happens, is at least.
If Pereira wins, he's getting in the UFC's top 15. He's probably getting into ours.
But he's not near a title shot though. He's getting the top 15, but he's still like 2 fights away. Unless
the guy midway up the ladder isn't near the top of the ladder either, but he's going up the ladder. That has implications that are relevant.
Maybe zero is strong, but I see where T-Ball Paul
zero is wrong. Zero's just
T-Ball
wrong.
Paul. Thank you for the comment. Yes, listen, the rule I try to set down is it should be a co-main event if it involves at least one fighter who is ranked, preferably in the MMA fighting global rankings. If it involves, of course, obvious title implications. If it involves named veterans, former title challengers, guys maybe who aren't ranked anymore, but who have fought for a title before. This case, it doesn't have any of those things, but it has Michel Pereira, and he rules. And that's the other rule that I haven't mentioned, that if you're a fighter and you rule, and you're in the second last fight of the night, you make it a co-main event. So Michel Pereira rules. So under the fighters rule, this is a co-main event, specifically because of Demolidor. But Santiago Ponzinibbio, a great opponent for him as well. So no taking anything from that. And a guy who was ranked for a while before, inactivity and a couple of losses knocked him out of there.
So if Michel Pereira was in a co-main event with a debuting fighter who was like 11-11 that no one's ever heard of, is it still a co-main event?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Even more so because he's going to style on that dude.
That's actually a really good point. AK feels like this will be a more technical fight, Jed, and I don't think we can compare Michel Pereira to like a Johnny Walker. I feel like some people do that. Like some people feel like he was super exciting and now he's just not exciting at all. I don't necessarily think that's the case. He's definitely not in the Johnny Walker territory because we've seen the last couple of Johnny Walker fights.
He's winning.
Yes, Michel Pereira is winning. So do you feel like, because a lot of people, if you go on Twitter, they saw this fight announced like, oh my God, this is going to be insane. And maybe this isn't going to be an all out slugfest. We're not going to get Condit Lawler in here, but is this still going to be really fun? Does this have a real chance to be more fun than AK thinks it might be?
It has a real chance, but I, like him, do not think this is a certified banger. I think there's I think it is 50-50 whether this is going to be anarchy and awesome, or I struggle to call it technical because I don't think I've ever thought of the word technical when talking about Michel Pereira. But a more measured fight, because, and I think frankly a lot of that will depend entirely on Santiago Ponzinibbio, because Ponzinibbio has been sparked out by a huge athletic dude before in Li Jiangling, and maybe he's coming into this thinking, well, Bahia is a huge athletic dude and can hit really hard, and so I need to approach this much more tactically. I need to try and take this into later rounds. I need to try and work takedowns. It will depend on what he wants. If they both, because Santiago Ponzinibbio is a really fun fighter. If they both decide they're going to go out on the shield and see what happens, this fight's going to be awesome. But I sort of think we are going to get a little more measured. Maybe once the fist starts flying, things will change, and both men will sort of revert to who they want to be at heart. But I think it is more likely that we get a more calculated, measured fight than just an all-out scrap, because sadly, that's not who Michel Pereira is anymore. And that sucks because he was way more fun when he was a lunatic. And yeah, this is probably better for his fight career, but his last 4 opponents, or his last 3, because Imadiev doesn't matter. Chaos Williams, Nico Price, and Andre Fialho. Andre Fialho, that fight ruled. But the other 2 were not, they were fine, but that should be a 3-fight fight of the night win streak for him based on who he was before he kind of took the L's and sort of reset his career. He's just not that dude who's going to go out and just throw caution to the wind anymore. And he'll throw in a backflip guard pass that's illegal or whatever, but he's not going to just exclusively do Hurricane Ranas and just like absolute wild man shit in there. So, I hope it happens because I miss the old Bahia, but I think we're probably going to get a little bit more of a tactical fight.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jed, I think that's why I think you and I, because we were following him a
The
little.
missed fist days, he was the man.
We were following him
like 6 missed fists.
Yeah, a little bit before he came to the UFC. So we know what crazy Michel Pereira looks like. And crazy Michel Pereira, people understand, crazy Michel Pereira was not necessarily a winning fighter. That's the thing about this guy is he had, if you look at his record for UFC, it's not that it's 22-9 entering the UFC. So it's not like, and his winning streak now, his 4-fight win streak, this is his longest win streak in 7 years. So he was never about what he is now, kind of finding that consistency and winning fights. He was never about that. That's why the version you're seeing now, good for him. You want to win fights, get that extra paycheck, and God willing, get that title shot someday. But when Jed and I talk about the crazy Pereira, man, just look at his old YouTube clips. He didn't give a F about winning fights. He won by just being himself. He didn't care. If it goes to a decision, he loses. What does that even mean to him? It means nothing.
He was the man, dude. He had so many highlights in Misfits.
They're so dumb.
So the backflip guard pass that turned into a stomp, or maybe it was a front flip stomp. I don't know. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a cage fight. He's insane. He ruled.
And still does, just in a different way. In a different way. He still rules.
He's still fun. Look, the Fialho fight was incredibly fun. Do not get me mistaken on that at all. But it really struck me when I went back and looked through. I was like, he fought Chaos Williams, and I don't remember that fight. Why don't I remember him fighting Chaos Williams? That should have been insane. And instead, it was just it was a fight. He fought him. He didn't do dumb stuff the whole time. It was whatever.
Nico Price was fun. Not as fun as everybody thought it was going to be, but it was still fun.
Nico Price was fun, but that should have been a fight of the year. On paper, that is a fight of the year, and it didn't even win fight of the night.
Craziness. Right now, the betting lines, according to our friends at DraftKings, Michel Pereira, -140 favorite. Comeback on Santiago Ponzinibbio is +120. AK, your pick in this co-main event. Nice co-main event. Are you going Michel Pereira? Are you going against him? Is that possible?
Boy, it is kind of crazy. We said 4-fight win streak. He is obviously winning the Diego Sanchez fight too. So this should be.
Should be
right?
A 5-fight win streak.
He could theoretically be this could theoretically be 6 in a row. That sounds crazy to me. Because I did always kind of view him as an oddity, a very talented oddity. but a bit of an oddity. So for him to win 6 fights, I don't care who it is, if it's Imadaev, Chaos Williams, whatever. And for this to
good
get
names. These are good
Sure.
names.
well,
Chaos-
one of whom you were saying didn't even matter like 2 minutes ago.
Well, no, Imadaev doesn't matter, but Chaos Williams, Nico Price, like Fialho, those are like very competent top 20, 30-ish fighters.
Yeah. And so it's good competition. But now this is a legitimate guy who was ranked in the top 15 for a while. I think made the UFC's top 10 before we did. I think before we did our own rankings, pretty sure he was in the UFC's right around the top 10. I think
he was 7.
Yeah, the Neil Magny KO really like put him up there.
Then he put him at 7.
For sure, and well deserved. And that guy's still there. You know, he's a bit up there in age now. I think he's in 35. I think he's his age 35 year. Again, a lot of mileage. You know, anytime we talk about fighters, there's their actual age, and then there's their fighter age. But man, I still think there's enough there. I think skill wise, I think he's such a skilled fighter. I think I'll give him a little bit of a power advantage too. I am gonna go. I don't believe in reverse jinxing, guys. So that's not what I'm doing. I do think Ponzinibbio will win by decision. Oh, let's go decision.
Okay. I mean, I thought you were setting us up for something big there, the way you
I chickened out. Big time.
Okay. He's going Ponzinibbio by decision. He's going with the upset decision here. Jed, are you with AK once again here? You're with them on the main event, or are you with them on the co-main event?
I am. I'm taking Santiago Ponzinibbio. I think this is a coin flip fight. Like, I think it's going to end by stoppage. Both men been knocked out before. I think both men really have an opportunity to get knocked out here again. As they both hit really hard. And I agree. I think Ponzi's scheme probably hits a little bit harder, but I think he's got a little bit worse of a chin, especially getting up there in age. So, but I think he is a more technically sound fighter than Michel Pereira is. And that's why I'm going to pick him to win, because he opened as the favorite. I am a little surprised how much money has clearly come in on Pereira, because I think Santiago opened at like minus 150. And so to have that essentially bet reversed is pretty substantial. So a little shocked by that, but I'm taking the underdog. Gives me Ponzi scheme, KO round 2.
Man, do I have to go against you guys again? Yeah, I guess I will. I'll go Michel Pereira. I haven't figured out how yet, but I think Michel Pereira is going to win. I think he's going to have the size advantage here. Maybe Ponzinibbio is a little more technical, but I think we might see not the full crazy Michel Pereira, but I think we might see glimpses of the old crazy Michel Pereira. Just a smidge. I think he's going to find some sort of middle ground.
Which crazy parts? Because that's the other thing. Because if he decides he's going to do 3 really wild things, but like if those things are just like jumping knees or like a spinning tornado kick, cool. But if it's something dumb like a backflip guard pass, like that's the kind of crazy that gets you into trouble. So you got to gauge that. What crazy's coming out, Mike?
Okay, so I like some sort of spinning tornado kick. I like a flying knee. I think there'll be multiple flying knee attempts. And the other crazy thing that we really haven't seen in a while is Michel Pereira is going to take 28 minutes to get to the cage. He's going to milk that walkout like he did against Tristan Connolly. He's going to take longer than the main event to get inside the cage. So it's just going to be, we're going to hear Bohemian Rhapsody 8 times before he actually gets into the cage.
Remind me, did milking the walkout work against Tristan Connolly?
No, but he also missed weight. It's a different guy. I know, but
he was
he's going to take
a more fun
guy.
He was a more fun guy.
See? Glimpses, not the full board, but glimpses.
I need to see him do the inverted guard that we saw in that clip that went viral this week. I don't know, Jed, you saw that, right? The guy just like turned. He's like butt scooting, but with his head at, like, guys, it's in. I'm sure people saw it on Twitter. It's in I put it at the end of Misfits this week. It's like, I need Michel Pereira because I think Michel Pereira could do it right. He would turn that into something special.
It's dangerous.
I don't know what, because I don't know where that is going. But
yeah, but neither does your opponent. Neither does the opponent.
Exactly.
He doesn't know how to react because he might be playing into your hands. Never let him know your next move.
Maybe Ponzinibbio will have some crazy tricks up his sleeve. Who knows? Maybe this is going to be that certified banger. People think. What will be certainly a certified banger is Chidi Njokuani versus Dusko Todorovic. I think those two are just going to, as Jed likes to say, hammer and tongs, get or get got,
Yeah.
It's probably going to be
Chuck and
Todorovic
mitts,
against
baby.
Scott, but there could be Chuck and mitts. Polyana Viana, Tabitha Ricci is a really interesting fight at 115. Eric Anders versus Jung Park. By the way, go ahead.
Did you know Todorovic has a win over, like a not long ago win over Michel Pereira?
Sure, it's Serbian Fighting Championships. He knocked him out right before Pereira joined in the UFC. Did you ever watch that fight? It's weird.
I think I saw the highlight.
Yeah.
It's weird.
He just kind of gets punched and dies. Like, it doesn't look like it's the world's greatest punch, but that's like, I'm done.
Also on the main card, the openers, Eric Anders versus Jung Park. And I did listen to the latest episode of No Bets Barred. And Jed, for the gambling enthusiasts out there, you had a very interesting stat about this fight, did you not? About betting on Eric Anders or Jung Park?
Eric Anders has never cashed an underdog bet in his entire career. I think he has like 4 opportunities to, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it is, but because I was mildly interested in betting him, and then I was like, oh, no, never mind. I'm just going to pass. Don't need to be involved in this fight.
And Eric Anders, a plus 160 underdog in this fight. So bet on Eric Anders if you must, but might not be wise according to the statistics. Before we get to the peeps, AK, under the radar, low-key banger, fighter storyline. What's not getting talked about enough that has you excited? Because I see that smile on your face.
Why is Parker Porter versus Jailton Almeida not on the main card or the featured prelim? This is insane. I personally hate this fight for Jailton Almeida. I understand he was booked to fight Maxim Grishin. He's done his training, whatever. He just wants to fight anyone. They threw a heavyweight in his direction. He's like, screw it, heavyweight, great. Guess what? I'm removing the weight cut from my schedule now. I can just focus on other things, training, eat more. It's fine. It's just, for me, it's such a low, considering how impressive he was in his UFC debut. I think not like Christian's like a big name or anything, but like he's like a tough light heavyweight guy. I think beating a tough guy like that in your division was like the next logical move for him. Now he's facing a tough guy outside of his division, and maybe if he runs through him, you know what? People view it the same way as if he beat a light heavyweight. Like, it doesn't matter. Who cares about weight classes anyway, right? But there's a chance that, again, it's just kind of this weird oddity, win or lose, and then he runs through him and people kind of roll their eyes like, oh, well, he's supposed to beat Parker Porter. Like, they don't, they kind of ignore that Parker Porter has had his own success lately in the octagon. The other possibility is that I'm leaning towards is that he might lose. I don't like seeing guys fight, especially at heavyweight. What did he, Jed, what did he weigh in at, Jailton?
It was like 225. He basically just did not cut weight. He did not add anything.
Right. So it's not terrible. It's
no, probably and he looked a chiseled 220.
He looked good?
Whatever. He looked healthy young man. That's what he looked. He looked like a healthy young man.
But we know that all those muscles, you can get real tired. If you're trying to go for some, if you
he might get real tired then. Because
listen, I cannot get it out of my mind that this could be a Leonardo Santos, Jacare Souza, Adolfo Vieira situation where he gasses himself out going for like some big finish in the first round, and then Parker Porter comes back and either finishes him or wins the decision after just like, kind of wearing this guy down. I had this weird, I am so strongly feeling a Parker Porter upset. Again, maybe just because I saw those things happen, Leonardo Santos, Adolfo Vieira, Jacare, that like now I just feel like, oh, it's going to happen every time to these like super, super strong, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grapplers. But I'm not shying away from it. I think this is a trend. I think these guys fall into these things. I think it'll be our fourth of the last, 12, 14 months, our fourth, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this jiu-jitsu expert lost to this guy. And maybe, God help us, Parker Porter by rear naked choke or something like that.
Jed, we had a caller on Heck of a Morning this morning who said that he's got Jailton Almeida and like a big parlay piece that he's doing, but he also took a shot on Parker Porter at plus 1,400 by decision to sort of hedge in case something goes terribly wrong with this, because that's the one he feels could be an issue. And I believe you did discuss No Bets Barred. So is Almeida Porter a Porter? You're under the radar banger here, or is there something else that sticks out?
It's not. But I do want to say, I also, as the man who brought that bet to No Bets Barred, and then for my gambling column, I also took that action. I got it at plus 1,600. Care to take a guess at what that line is right now?
Plus
11.
2,400.
Plus
Oh, it dropped?
1,100.
Wow.
Yeah, by a
You
considerable
powerful
amount.
man.
Just Vegas was like, hey, this is very dumb. I'm not sure why Parker Porter is a plus 400 underdog, but decision, which feels like the most likely outcome for him, is this juiced. So I'm taking a shot at it, but that's not my low-key banger. Though don't get me wrong, I'm with almost everything AK said. I actually think there's a really good chance that Parker Porter is one of those guys who, it's like Moneyball. We undervalue him because he looks funny, but he's actually just like a really effective fighter. And the way he's mostly been beat has been, I mean, Gabriel Gonzaga took him down and tapped him out, but in the UFC, Chris Dawg has knocked him out. And I don't think Jailton's doing that. So, and Jailton also does, like, he takes a lot of bad shots. Like, he shoots from way outside and just athletes his way through it. That might not work against Parker Porter, who's pretty good and going to have 40 pounds on him. But my low-key banger is, I think there are a lot of choices, but for me, I'm going to take Omar Morales, Uros Medic, just because I think I really have liked what I've seen from both of those dudes. Morales is really tough-nosed, puts a good pace down, and Medic has been a get-or-get-got guy. So I think those two guys are just going to come out and really start scrapping, and it's going to be one of, if not the most fun fights on the card for my money.
Yeah, I like both of those picks. You know, the Pacaporta, Jailton Almeida fight is a lot of fun. I like the Morales Medic pick, but just to be different, I actually think Jonathan Martinez, Vince Morales is going to be a little bit more competitive than a lot of people feel it's going to be. I feel like Vince Morales, yes, I understand a lot of people when they look at this fight, they're going back.
Learn to check kicks.
Listen,
has he figured out how to do that yet?
Sometimes you speak to people, you speak to these fighters, and you realize that they were in bad places in their lives, and they've figured it out, and they've made moves to make their overall lives in and out of the cage better. And I feel like Vince Morales, although the wins aren't against top-level competition, you could argue, I mean, you could say easily that Jonathan Martinez has fought better competition. I feel like Vince is in a much better place mentally. He's in a much better place physically. He's in a much better place as an athlete. And I still think Jonathan Martinez will probably win a decision here. But I think this fight's going to be a lot more competitive and a lot more fun than it looks on paper. So I'm going to go with that one. I think Vince Morales might surprise some people, probably be in a losing effort. But I think Vince Morales can make this fight a lot more interesting than most people think it will be. So
fight's going to be fun.
Let's go to the beat. Oh, good. It's going to be super fun. Super fun. Let's go to Casey, who will be bringing in questions for
Mr.
the peeps.
3024.
There he is. He gets a whole box this week. How about that?
Yeah,
You're not just a little lower circle in the bottom
no,
right-hand corner of
no.
our screens.
Esther complained. She's like, I need to see your face more. So I was like, I made it bigger.
I get it.
She actually didn't say
let
that.
the iconic.
I was going to say, I suspect since she lives with you, she didn't say
she was
that.
like smaller.
Let's take a few questions here.
No problemo. Here. Oops. Oh, one moment. Let me.
And don't forget, 4 p.m. Eastern start time for this card. So the People's Pre-Fight Show tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern. I love saying that into a live microphone. Happy birthday, AK. It's actually, for real, the Brazilian beast, Guilherme Cruz's birthday. So happy birthday, really, to Guilherme Cruz.
G's in the chat, please. G's in the chat for Gui, please. Happy birthday to Gui. 20, what is he? 27 years old, something like that. God, but he's a shit, man.
Right.
He's only 27, man. He's got his whole life ahead of him.
What?
he looks amazing.
T-ball, God, that is like one of the best YouTube handles ever. Holly Holm is the early 90s Buffalo Bills 0-4 in title shots.
I think we're forgetting one.
She actually won. Wait.
No, she had 4 title shots. I mean, she had a title defense that she lost, but
if you're going to compare it to win. You can't compare it to the Bills.
No. It's Ronda Rousey. Come on, it doesn't count.
Yeah, I just I don't know, I don't agree with this, but okay.
No, it's a good joke.
Yeah.
Did the Bills? They never actually. Did they win?
Never won it.
They never won it. Yeah, Holly won it.
Four straight Super Bowls, by the way, and didn't win one.
Is it bet?
Casey, you should know this. You're a Gravediggers fan. That's a great Gravediggers a lot.
Oh no, I only know the Buffalo Bills as because I'm from Houston, and when they had that 6,000 point comeback, I was in middle school, I think, and that still hurts me. But I always find this weird how fans hate. I don't know if it's hate, but we hate on the Buffalo Bills for making it to the game, big game, but losing, like as if that's still somehow a bad thing when 30 other teams don't even get to that game. I just think it's I think like Joseph Benavidez kind of got the same critique. It's like, oh, you can't win the big one. It's like, well, you get to the big one. Like 99.9% fighters can't even get to the big one. So I don't know.
Chris Paul literally made the NBA Finals last year. Suddenly he's the biggest loser ever. I'm like, what? Where did this come from? I mean, that game was pretty bad, but I'm just saying.
Oh man, I bet Shaheen's just like crying right now. He just
come on.
Edit that out for later. Edit that
He's
out.
watching.
I'm
Don't
defending
do
Chris
to the
Paul.
man.
I'm defending Chris. Actually, he probably doesn't want to defend Chris Paul right now. So.
Nah, Chris Paul was hurt, bro.
Oh, okay, yeah. Here comes Shaheen on Slack right now. All right, we'll get off the Buffalo Bills. Let's talk about some winners.
You know what's interesting about Holly Holm, though? Yeah, see, people sleeping on Holly. She still got it.
Yes.
Here's what's interesting. You have all these fighters. You have Kamaru Usman. You have all these fighters, Chris Cyborg, that are calling out all these big name boxers like Canelo and Katie Taylor and stuff. Holly Holm being interested
The one
in Katie
who should
Taylor.
do that.
Holly Holm is the only one who you could actually put in this discussion, and it's not completely egregious and stupid. So
I don't
just
even
throwing
think
that
it's
out.
sort of egregious and stupid.
It's not at
it's
all.
It's just like totally fair. And she's just
100%.
Holly Holm's just low key a badass, and nobody ever thinks about that. But like,
And look at who
the International Boxing Hall of Fame is not an easy thing to get into, and she is being inducted this year. So to go to a point I said on a previous show this week, Henry Cejudo, you're just wrong. You're not the greatest combat sports athlete ever. Holly Holm is a better combat sports athlete than you are. Eat it.
Yeah.
Look at her losses. These are her losses in her MMA career. Misha Tate is going to be a future UFC Hall of Famer.
That loss is so tough too, because she should have won that fight.
Or at least been a draw. At least it would have been a draw if she'd survived that round. It would have been a draw, and she would have retained. Yeah. Valentina Shochenko, maybe the greatest women's fighter of all time. GDR, if there was, I don't think the UFC. I don't know how the UFC feels about her, but one of the greatest combat sports athletes ever, and also someone who should be in the UFC Hall of Fame.
That was a bad decision.
It was a bad fight, but I agree it was a bad decision.
Bad fight, and the whole late punch thing.
It was not a bad decision. It was a bad fight. The late punch thing should have been punished.
Yes.
That fight is just a bad, but also that fight, we can all agree, should not have been for a title.
Sure.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bads that went into that fight already.
Just a collection of garbage.
Chris Cyborg, that was her fourth loss. Again, one of the greatest of all time. And then Amanda Nunes, her fifth loss, one of the greatest of all time. So I know this is like a BJ. This is not. I shouldn't say BJ Penn. It's a bad example now. But there was a time when people looked like BJ Penn and Randy Couture and be like, "Oh, look at their records. Like, 16 and 10. Like, is this person really that good?" And they're gonna say the same thing about Holly Holm. Like, she's gonna end up, I don't know, like 15 and 5 now. Maybe she ends her career like 16 and 8 or something. And people are like, "Oh, was she really that good?" And it's like, yeah, she is one of the best. I mean, at 135 and 145, she beat everyone except the best of the best of the best. So I don't know how much you can drag her name, honestly. I really don't.
Yeah.
When 3 of your 5 losses are to like numbers 1, 2, and 4 in the all-time, like that's pretty explicable.
Yeah, that's like, I just want to put this up because I just kind of hate that Holly Holm gets. It's like, yes, like when you lose the best, but she beat a lot of the best too. But I'm annoyed at it. But but Holly's not that person to go out. She doesn't need to defend her own name. She knows who she is. I think that's kind of yeah.
So 3 of those women, Jo, are in the top 4 all-time fighters.
Yeah.
One of them is also a Hall of Famer, and then GDR is just a sort of a weird space of being a very good combat sports athlete that also fought in MMA.
Yeah. She's not very overrated, Mr. J.O.
GDR, who also submitted the current bantamweight champion.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
And like, if Holly Holm wins this weekend, I will pick her to beat Juliana Pena. Like, my questions about her are entirely age and injury related. So if they fight, I feel very confident that Holly will beat Juliana Pena if those two things aren't at issue currently with her.
Yeah, it's just the age thing, and it's not. And Holly has lots of tread on the tire too. She's not a young 40. She's a lot of big boxing matches, a lot of everything.
40 some odd boxing matches and stuff like it's just. She's been competing professionally as a combat sports athlete for like 20 some odd years. That's hard.
But she looked phenomenal against Aldana, so she could bring some of that tomorrow. Then, she becomes a very interesting player.
One thing we didn't talk about, I'm kind of curious. What do you guys think about the fact that it's in this small apex cage? Is that advantageous for either one of the fighters? I feel personally it's advantageous for Vieira. You don't think it matters?
I think it would, but I think Holly Holm's footwork is so much better than Vieira's that it doesn't matter. Like, normally, yes, the smaller cage would let Vieira cut angles a little better. I don't think she's going to be able to. Like, I think she's not that quick-footed. Holly's pretty fast on her feet and has solid footwork. It's better than the big cage because then she will have zero chance of catching her, but I just don't think it's really going to. I think Vieira's offense is going to either come from clinches and takedowns or countering when Holly comes in on her.
Yep. Probably. Agreed.
Talk about the co-main event a bit.
Joseph Boza. Santiago is defending his number 14 spot against Pereira. I could see Pereira taking it with a win. That'd be 5 in a row welterweight. Joseph Boza confident in the Pereira pick.
He has not ranked the MMA Fighting Global Rankings. Joseph Boza. I don't know what you're talking about. So,
touche.
Get it together.
I mean, they are the only rankings that matter. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I don't know where this number 14 is coming from. I'll be honest. It's a very strange number.
But if he does beat Ponzinibbio, Pereira will probably break into my 15. I don't know if that's good enough to knock out. I don't know if that's good enough to knock out luminaries like Jorge Masvidal, who is still hanging in our top 15 for some reason.
Oh no, you're gonna love it when I have both MVP and Sterling and Storley, in my rankings next month. I know a lot of you guys are dropping MVP. Not this guy. I got MVP and Storley both taking up spots. Top 15.
You're killing me. Let's get to this question.
No, wait. Did Lorenz Larkin, did he fight at 85 or 70 his last fight?
85.
Okay.
It was 85.
He's going back to 70 though, he said.
Okay, but he didn't fight at 70, so I can't bring it back yet.
Scott McCrae, thoughts on Elise Reed's potential? CFFC fighters faring well in the UFC at the moment. Now, Elise Reed coming off her first UFC win against Corey McKenna at UFC London. She got finished pretty quickly by Sajara Eubanks in her debut, but that was also up a weight class at 125 on less than a week's notice. She fights Sam Hughes, and Sam Hughes, pretty tough debut against Tisha Torres. Again, one of those situations where she took the fight on super short notice. She's had some tough runs, but she got a win in her last fight. So big fight for Sam Hughes, big fight for Elise Reed. I actually think it's going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be a fun little scrap. It's kind of early, at least in my eyes, to talk potential. If she goes out and beats Sam Hughes, I still have a whole bunch more questions, but where do you think her potential is, AK? Do you think very high ceiling, or what do you think? Or do you think it's too early to even answer that question?
It's way too early to tell, but I hate that Sajara Eubanks fight happened. I understand fighters have to have that, and I guess their managers have to have the mentality of, listen, when the UFC comes calling, you don't say no, and you do them a favor, and it's gonna, it's gonna work out even better for you. You establish yourself as a company person right away. I understand why she took it. Man, when I hated that matchup though, when it was announced, because I think she was handling her career the right way. She won a title for CFFC. She could have defended that a couple of times. I get it though. The temptation of fighting the UFC, the potential for the UFC paycheck, the prestige, it is ingrained in fighters. You just can't say no to it, even when it's like you're facing a very tough veteran, Sajara Eubanks, who's a very big flyweight. And she's a big flyweight, by the way. Yeah. I remember when they stepped in the case together, it looked ridiculous.
Did Eubanks actually make weight for flyweight that fight too?
She did, yeah.
She did make weight. But she's back at 35 now, right, Eubanks?
I think she's sticking around at 25 again.
Okay.
I think she's still gunning out down there. And I hate fights like that to happen because not just because like, oh, it'd be nice if Elise Reed was 6-0 or 7-0 instead. I mean, that does look good, but also, man, when you take it was a rough fight. Like, I mean, she took what you would expect. She took a pretty good beating from a much larger fighter, and that's the sort of thing. Like, I think it makes a person step back. Some fighters can get stronger off of it. I think that's going to really hurt you early on. So I'm glad she's getting a chance to stick at 115 now. I think Sam Hughes is the right matchup. Good fight for both women. But yeah, it is hard to gauge her potential. I just wish she hadn't taken that fight and had a more logical entry into the UFC. But that's the business, right?
Yep.
I actually thought she lost her CFFC title fight. I thought Jasudavicius beat her. So, but she's still good. She's still good and very tough, and she's still pretty new, and pretty green to the sport. She's got that soldier mentality. She's gonna do okay.
Let's talk about some more prelims that we haven't mentioned too much.
Oh, Chase Hooper versus Felipe Calhares. No, it has not been covered, but Jed dropped a fun little statistic on the betting perspective on Eric Anders earlier. Another interesting betting statistic on Chase Hooper heading into this fight with Felipe Calhares. Jed Meshew, why don't you share that for the people who may have missed No Bets Barred?
Is this where this is his first time being an underdog? Is that right?
Yep.
I'm trying to remember things. There's been a long week. Yeah, it's his first time being an underdog. I have two bets on. I have bet against him and on him because I'm a degenerate and make bad choices. I think Felipe Calhares should win this fight because Chase Hooper is not very good at fighting. And that's really the extent of it. Like he might get good, but he's 21 years old and he's still developing a lot, and he has shown to be a good grappler, but he has not shown to be good at fist fights. And sometimes those overlap and he can get wins, but like he doesn't have a cohesive game. Like the parts of his game such that there are parts to it and not just he can do leg locks don't fit together in any meaningful way. He doesn't have any stitching to make it work. To say, okay, well, if I'm here, here's what I'm going to do to make this transition here. I can do leg locks if I can find a way to get one, cool, but I don't really have a consistent way to make that happen against a guy who's a solid athlete and not like the best fighter in the world, Claris, but he's more physical. Like he's a more of a physical force and not a bad fighter. That should be enough to beat a guy who's still figuring out what his game is. That being said, the line moved a lot, and for the life of me, I cannot understand it. Let's see if that's still the case, because Hooper's an underdog, but for some reason, Hooper by submission is plus 500 as opposed to the plus like 300 that it is for him by decision. That makes no sense to me because if he wins this fight, it's because he leg locked him. I don't think he's going to like hold him down and succeed for 2 out of 3 rounds. So I also have an action on Hooper by submission. So either outcome, I'm comfortable with what happens in this fight.
I like the mentality here. I like it a lot. And Chase Hooper, as good as a grappler as he is, he's not a great like wrestler. He's not a guy that's just going to hoist you up in the air. He's no Jared Brooks. Yeah, he's more Carlos Condit than Jared Brooks.
Is Felipe Calhares like not an amazing grappler? Am I mistaken? Like I should scout them a little more, but from what I remember, isn't Felipe Calhares like a very, very good grappler?
Yeah, he's like a good grappler.
He's a BJJ and a judo guy,
yeah.
right?
That's why I think he's going to win the fight. But like, good grapplers. I mean, well, hell, dude got tapped today. In one. Gary Tonin got darsed today in one. Like, good grapplers get caught frequently, and
I mean, but those Rotolo kids. But I mean, that Rotolo kids, they're on a different level than a Chase Hooper.
I mean, sure, but also he's not. Calhares is not Gary Tonin, so it's levels. But like, leg lock guys are weird. Like, there's very much a world where a sub here happens. I don't think there's a world where Hooper knocks him out or outpoints him because I just don't think Chase Hooper's good. He was exciting. It was fun to have a 19-year-old kid. This is a fun thing, but like, he needs to develop a lot, and maybe he has because he's also 21. He might be way better since the last time we saw him, but
sure.
Based on everything we've seen, I just don't think he's.
How does someone like Hooper develop though in the UFC? Is this?
I was gonna say not in the UFC.
He doesn't develop in the UFC.
Okay, okay, that's what
that developmental deal should have been like 2 more years.
Yeah. His development has to happen in the gym to like just be a better fighter, and then hopefully he can get wins or not suffer devastating losses in the UFC. But he is not going to be building himself up with UFC fights. It'll be everything that happens outside of the actual fighting.
Is this the proper fight to make for them, for each fighter?
No, I don't think so at all. Mike, you and I have said many times, like, we almost wish that he'd gotten, if not released, like you said, work out some sort of developmental thing where maybe they resign him, but to a different kind of contract, and so you're still paying him good money, but to fight on, a slightly lower tier of competition. I get it. We're getting a lot of regional, like that line between the regional level and the UFC is blurring. So it's not like this is an insane like opposite opponent for Chase Hooper. Jed has explained many like a bunch of reasons why it's like there's ways for Chase Hooper to win this fight. It just on paper doesn't seem great. But I wish he was fighting more of, like, this is a kid who should be. There's no nice way to put it. He should be crushing cans in the regional scene. I do want to see him getting highlight reel subs. I do want to see him facing tough opponents who will push him, but who clearly are not going to beat him. I think the matchmaking for him has been really bad. And this is definitely just going further from where, again, Mike and I have mentioned on to the next one a lot. Like, it would be so good if he could have just gotten some more time in the regional scene. And it's not too late, but he's been just successful enough that they keep bringing him back and giving him like tough fighters. So I don't know. I think this is really bad for his development. I think this could be another Sage Northcutt situation.
I agree. I think this is bad. I think there is maybe one case where it's not, because I think if he loses, this is a fight that gets him cut. Because Kolaris is, I mean, he's won a couple in the UFC, but he's lost more than he's won. I feel like and this feels like about the bottom tier of what you should hold in. So I think if he loses, Chase Hooper gets either released outright or they tell him to go back to develop some. And that is the actual best thing for him, is to go to be a CFFC champion or an LFA champion, or to do that instead of what he is doing now.
I actually don't mind this matchup. I think you could have done way worse here, because Kalhares doesn't have a striking finish at all in his entire career. He's a very durable guy. That's his best trait, is he could take a beating. Go back and watch Felipe Kalhares against Montel Jackson. Montel Jackson beat his face in for 15 minutes, and Kalhares saw the final bell. The guy is so freaking tough. That Luke Sanders fight was pretty wild too. And then the Chris Gutierrez fight, it goes out of the split decision. Chris Gutierrez clearly won that fight, but it was a little more competitive than people give it credit for. I think it was more, no disrespect to Felipe Kalhares, it's more Gutierrez having a bad night than Kalhares having a better night. But I feel if we're worried about Chase maybe being knocked out, or at least fighting someone with equal skill sets in terms of finishing, I think you're not going to be able to do much better than this with what's on the current roster. Kalhares is a tough man to put away, very difficult, but I feel like if there's a path to victory here for Chase Hooper, if this gets to the ground, it could get interesting in grappling exchanges, and Chase could find a way to win this fight. So it's not a fight he's going to get hurt. It's not a fight that's going to really stunt his development. It's a fight he's going to take something away from, win or lose. So I don't hate it. You could have done way worse. I hated the Steven Peterson fight. I hated the Alex Caceres fight. This isn't bad. We could do a lot worse.
All right. Yeah, I kind of interested in this comparison. To Chase being kind of a grappling version of Sage Northcutt. In the sense of the way the UFC.
I mean, yeah, no, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
Except for John Jones, has anyone like 21? And I guess Charles Oliveira in the long run, though that was a very, very long arc, like crazy ass arc. Has anyone like come in as a 19, 20, 21-year-old, 22-year-old and just hit the ground running?
Well,
Rory McDonald.
There's one man who is.
Rory's a good example, but he took a lot of damage. He ended up taking a lot of damage.
I would say my choice if not my choice for the greatest fighter ever, he's in the top 3, and it's slightly different, but the youngest UFC champion of all time, Jose Aldo.
Yeah, it's a good pick right there as well.
Was he the youngest?
The youngest WEC champion. I mean, yeah, yes. He should have been. That was when Zuffa owned them still, and they just didn't. He was like 3 months younger than John Jones got the belt. And he came in at 21 and beat Alexander Franco Nogueira. Actually, might have been 20. And at that time, Franco Nogueira was insane.
What was his record before, though?
Before the WEC?
Oh, only 10-1. Okay, only 10-1. Okay, it's still pretty. Fair enough. I like
that. Alexander Franco Nogueira at the time was like a monster.
Even like that
was 10-1 when he came to the WEC.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he was 20.
He had the Azevedo. Hold on, I'll look it up. But I think he was like 20.
That's crazy.
But even that's an example of getting to develop under like a less like WC, as great as it was not like this, super mainstream household thing, right? Even that is like an example of getting to develop
competition-wise. It was though.
Oh, insanely difficult competition.
Yeah,
but like it's so different from again what's happening with like Sage Northcutt and Chase Hooper, where like they get all this publicity and all this fame. Paige Van Zandt, of course, and all this fame right away. In addition to having Macy Barber, who's hopefully starting to turn things around now. But again, it's really tough. It's really really tough. But Jose is a good example though. That is probably the best example you have.
Then Charles Oliveira, he came into the UFC when he was like 20.
But we're saying like that. But he was like
Max Holloway, But it's just interesting how maybe it's the interviews or how the UFC promote it. But like I don't remember when Max or an Oliveira came into the UFC and we were going, or they were on the mic going, "I'm gonna be the youngest champion ever." They just didn't say those things, but. But Chase Hooper and Sage Northcutt didn't say that. Don't say those things either. It's just maybe the media, the fans, the UFC puts that pressure on him. It's just
the media.
Chase,
not the media.
Chase
it's the UFC
doesn't really put that kind of pressure on himself, though.
Yeah, I think
you know what I mean. Sage, I felt put a lot of pressure on himself. Mm-hmm. Chase has been like on the way the UFC presents him. They've actually done it right. They put him in comfortable spots. They feature on Fight Pass to do just fun little skits that are hilarious. He's a great personality. He's got a dry sense of humor. Like he's a really good kid. Really good kid who wants to grow and get better. It's just really hard. It's really hard when you have a teen on your age on a contender, like fighting on the Contender Series at 18. All he had to do was win, and he was getting something because, oh my God, it's an 18-year-old fist fighter. He's a professional. Like
who
most 18-year-olds are. Yeah,
he's an 18-year-old who looks 12,
and he had the curly thing going on, the curly hairs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a guaranteed contract. And they gave him the developmental deal, which is smart, but I think they just brought him up a little too quick. But we'll see what happens. Maybe he goes out and gets a big win and shuts everybody up.
But that's the scary part. If he does get the big win, then he'll get
stays in the thing.
Yeah.
Then he fights Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah.
There we go. Now you're talking.
What is this poll? I don't see the poll.
It's in the YouTube. It's should Holly Holm get another title shot with an impressive win? UFC Vegas 55. 68% now. Yes, I'll close it soon because I think we're about where it's
Why the hell are you sending her to Bellator?
What is? Why is this?
Again? People, like I said, people really.
There's
hate
no division.
Holly.
There's no women's bantamweight division in Bellator.
I think people are just still mad she kicked Ronda in the face.
Listen, no, it's not just that. It's not just that. Listen, I was going to say this for Chase Hooper as well, but familiarity breeds contempt, especially in MMA. When people see you a lot and you're not winning every fight or you're not cutting fire promos every time, they just start to hate you. Like they just like, I don't know what it is. It's like they want you to be more, or they want you to be something you're not, which is not what Holly Holm is, or like how she's ever presented herself. She's always been super humble. She's says like she's not the most exciting interview. I admit it. I get it. She's not the super compelling interview. It's another reason people don't like her. But yes, when you see someone in these high profile situations over and over and over again, sometimes the fights just aren't entertaining. Let's be honest. She's been in her share of stinkers, including title fights. Jed, you mentioned the GDR fight, just a very strange title fight, not particularly enjoyable to watch. People are going to find reasons not to like you, but it does surprise me like how much like they disliked it. It's one thing to like not care about someone and like kind of want to see them not watch them, but to like actively dislike them is just strange to me. I don't understand that. I don't carry that energy in my life, but I understand kind of where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's weird. Like Holly's just one of the nicest people, and just I don't like her. Yeah, sorry.
She's a great person.
Yeah.
Off the top of your head, how many of her fights would you care to go rewatch?
Ronda, Aldana.
Over under 2.5.
Bet Correia for sure.
The Misha fight.
That's 3.
I mean,
yeah,
the Misha fight is great.
Yeah,
it's a tremendous. It was one of the best title fights. One of the best.
If you count her losses, I'll go watch Amanda Nunes brick her up. Like that was awesome. So yeah. But like I think that's against the spirit of it. She's been fighting. Like I get not enjoying her as a fighter because there's a lot to not enjoy, but the contempt is very weird.
It is weird because
Pennington fight's really bad. That's a really bad fight. The second Pennington fight's really terrible.
They both were bad.
But you can't just blame Holly. You can't just blame Holly for that either. Raquel Pennington's been in her share of bad fights, right?
But it's interesting too. We talk about bad fights. Look at Amanda Nunes. There's a lot of bad fights with Amanda Nunes too. The GDR fight was horrible.
Bad, yeah, real bad.
The Felicia Spencer fight was pretty horrible.
The second Shevchenko fight,
Spencer-
the second Shevchenko fight is so bad. Like I know people talk about it as a robbery for Shevchenko, whatever. That's a whole other argument altogether. What's
it's
inarguable?
not a
is
robbery
that
'cause
fight,
it's
that fight
bad.
sucks.
Yeah, the fight just
that
didn't.
fight sucks.
But yeah, they just didn't mesh right. Yeah,
It's bad. It's really
it's
bad.
just weird how.
She
I don't
didn't wanna
understand that. Yeah, Holly just
She
gets
didn't
some
wanna
weird
go
hate.
fight
It's odd.
Valentina Shochenko.
It's odd.
Well,
Yeah, it's odd.
maybe we'll have a great moment to discuss
Yeah.
tomorrow on the post-fight show.
Be kinder, everyone.
yeah,
Be kinder.
Be kind.
Yeah.
Be
Please,
kind.
be kinder.
You like
Except for
MMA
Michael
people.
Chandler.
You like
Don't,
the fighters.
don't be kind to Michael Chandler
And don't-
because he still sucks.
And hey, listen, you get to listen. Just think of what is ahead of us. Less than 3 hours from right now, as we're live, we get to hear the great Triple C, Henry Cejudo,
Oh, we didn't even talk about UFC.
pronounce Khabib Nurmagomedov's name at least a dozen different times, and I
What
can't
happened?
wait for it. Eagle FC 47, baby.
What happens if Jorgen De Castro wins?
He's fighting Fedor. He's fighting Fedor, baby. Co-promotion.
Listen, there's
This-
what's the betting odds on that fight, Jed? Do you know?
I have no idea, but I can pull him. Give me a sec, because I'm right here.
Should we guess? Should we guess?
Sure, take a
gotta
guess.
be-
You're not gonna
it's gotta
get
be-
it.
JDS minus
Junior-
350.
Minus 400. I'm going higher.
Minus
No,
375.
minus 400 was correct on the money.
Wow.
Way to go,
De
AK.
Castro's the
Maybe
live
you
dog,
should be
folks.
our gambling guy.
Don't gamble on MMA.
There we go.
Don't gamble
All right,
on
we're
bad
outta here.
heavyweight MMA. That is the rule.
We're out of here, everybody.
Unless it's Parker Porter.
God bless him.
Yes, Acapulco. He's
Okay.
live dog. All right, we're out of here. We'll see you at 3:30 Eastern tomorrow for the People's Free Fight Show. For AK, for Jed, for Casey, I am Mike Heck. Good night, everybody.
Love you
Happy
guys.
birthday, Guillermo
Happy birthday, Guy.
and AK.